And welcome into the Rant, everybody. Bill just told me for the final one, he's going to have perfect posture. So
I am.
I guess that's it right there. I never have perfect posture. So welcome into the Rant, everybody. I'll give you the rundown really quickly. Here's what's going to get accomplished tonight. Bill and I are going to talk about OU hiring Alex Grinch as Sooners defensive coordinator. We'll go through that pretty quickly. We'll talk about OSU finishing the roller coaster ride of a season on an up, beating another top 25 team.
Really good
in the
bowl.
Liberty
That
Bowl
was a good-
over Missouri.
a good
And then we're
bowl
going to
game.
talk about our top stories of 2018. Top sports stories of 2018 in the state of Oklahoma. So here we go. Final one. It's been a whole lot of fun, Bill. Alex Grinch, formerly at Washington State, took that defense from just unbelievably awful to pretty good, by the time he left 3 years later and coached, with Mike Leach. So he knows what this offense is about. And then went to Ohio State, and, they don't hire bustas. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you get hired by Ohio State, you got some chops.
Well, what he
and
did-
now he's coming to OU. How's he going to fix this thing?
Well, I don't know how, but I know what he did at Washington State is exactly what they need at Oklahoma, which is just enough of an upgrade on the defensive side to complement what you presume is going to continue to be dynamic offensive play. And they don't have to have a top 8 defense. They need a top 40 defense. They needed just a few stops and just something that looks and feels a lot different than what they had this year.
Lincoln Riley, I assume Eric Bailey was there the day after the Orange Bowl, talked to a select group of reporters and talked about how scheme was not number one in terms of his priority list. That was down the line. He wanted a guy, I think, to reshape the culture, to get these kids to play hard. Now, when he was at Washington State, Grinch did a great job of helping his guys force turnovers. Emphasizing that in practice is obviously a big deal, but to me, more than anything, and here's what OU's been lacking and why turnovers, I think, have been a problem for them. Kids can't be thinking all the you got to be in the right spot to force turnovers, right? You got to be in the right spot.
Right.
Getting kids into the right spot is going to be one of the top jobs for Alex Grinch going forward.
2 years ago, Owasso was 3-7. The next year, Owasso won it all. 1998, Oklahoma Sooners were 5-6.
Yep.
Couldn't tackle, couldn't score, couldn't do nothing. 2 years later, they won the national championship.
I think it can happen quickly.
With a lot of the
Absolutely.
same guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you talk about a culture change, that's not just some fancy term or just some trendy term to throw around. It can happen. It's a real thing.
This defense needs to play harder, it needs to play more together, it needs to play smarter. And all of those things can be accomplished, I think, with the material you've got on hand for the most part. They have not been recruiting elite guys defensively. They had a top 5 class this year, but most of that's offense. They got 3 5-star wide receivers and a 5-star quarterback. They're not at the Alabama Clemson level in terms of material the last couple of years, but it has been better than it was the previous 3 or 4. So you got some better talent coming in, young guys, and I think you've got enough there. As bad as it looked, you've got enough there to make it. OU has no business being 100th best in the country in anything defensive efficiency-wise. They should be able to jump into the top 50, top 40 easily.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying.
That's what I expect from Alex Grinch. I think it's a great hire, and I do expect this OU defense to be better.
When you ask me how does he do that, I mean, obviously you get better players. But I think if they just go out there armed with the belief that they're better, that's a step. That helps. And that's where the 2000 Sooners and 99 Sooners, for that matter, were so much better than in 98 because they went out there with the belief that they were better.
The shame of it is you had Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray in back-to-back years playing quarterback better than anybody in the country, and you squandered it. Maybe if you had Alex Grinch paired with those guys, maybe OU's got that 8th national title already. But
squandered in a ultimate championship
yes,
sense, but
only talking national titles.
You won,
it was great
won
year.
24 games and won 2 Big 12 trophies.
That's right.
And certainly enhanced the brand. I wouldn't even say sustained the brand. I'd say enhanced. Because they did it with Lincoln and Bob, and sent a strong message that. I say Lincoln and Bob. I mean, the Baker run extended back into the Bob years, but now they've proven that with Lincoln Riley, they've got one of the more dynamic guys in the entire sport, and then they bring in this class.
Sure.
That was really the cherry on top, I guess, was yesterday.
Jaden Hazelwood,
Yeah.
a third five-star receiver. Yeah, it's
Amazing.
going to be an embarrassment of riches in terms of offensive talent for Lincoln Riley for quite some time to come. And we look forward to hopefully hearing from Coach Grinch sometime this week. So it'd be interesting to see what he may be all about.
I think Oklahoma fans should probably be prepared for a Wednesday introduction to their new coordinator.
Okay. Just breaking news here. Let's talk about Oklahoma State. It was a psychotic season. You beat 4 top 25 teams, and you go and lose to a bunch of guys that finished 5-7 or 6-6. But you do finish on a high note, beating a top 25 team, a team from the SEC, in a bowl game where you lose 2 guys on defense to targeting, and you were shorthanded to begin with. Justice Hill didn't play. There were some silver linings here, and you know what? In hindsight, we probably never should have doubted Mike Gundy. I mean, he's a big-time coach. He's done what he's done for 15 years at OSU for a reason. He rallied the troops, circled the wagons, got these guys to play hard.
Think about it too, Caden. He's 9-4 now in bowl games.
Yeah.
And a lot of those bowl games, an unfortunate number of those bowl games, come on the heels of like a bedlam loss in the regular season finale. And so you get the wind kicked out of you, you get your heart broken, and then you've got to regroup, give them a week off, regroup, and then win a bowl game. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done it 9 times now. So 9-4 in bowls. This game was good for college football because the bowl season wasn't.
Pretty bad.
It was. There were some great games, but there was more duds than.
That's right. There weren't many of these.
No, this was a really good game. We decided, it's interesting too, the Jim Knowles experience at OSU, it kind of ran parallel to the season as a whole because there was that roller coaster with the Knowles guys on the defensive side, and yet, essentially the season ends with a 4th down stop.
Well, didn't you think, not just the 4th down stop, though, that was huge, but the fact that, I mean, this was a Missouri team with an NFL quarterback and some real weapons.
Sure.
And they hung in there. They lost 2 guys to targeting. They were shorthanded as well. Like, I think spinning it forward, you could sell me on, hey, this Jim Knowles defense will take a big step forward in year 2 when his coordinators are all on the same page and the players on this roster are on the same page. Like, I like the guy. The results were awful. There's no denying that. Year 1 was not great. But I could see that as a foundation year, and I could see them being a lot better going forward.
To some extent, the same applies at Oklahoma State as at OU. I think they'll go in armed with the belief in the spring that they know it more. They know Knowles better. There's a relationship and a history there, and I mean, the question mark, this whole state should just have, like, if you look from a satellite image down on the state of Oklahoma, there should be a giant question mark over it because of the quarterback situations at OU and OSU.
Right.
Massive question marks.
Sure.
Fascinating quarterback
Gotta
competitions
be Spencer
in the
Sanders,
spring.
right?
It does. I don't know that it has to, but and if I say what I'm about to say, it sounds so disrespectful to Drew Brown.
Okay.
But because you signed the Player of the Year in the state of Texas, it's kind of important that he thrives at Oklahoma State. I mean, it's important that guy becomes your guy, becomes the guy.
I'm not troubled yet that he didn't see the field this year. We haven't heard more rave reviews about his performance in practice during the season, but I'll be there if this is a battle through spring and into August. You know what I mean? Like, to me, Spencer Sanders needs to go be really good in the spring, let everybody know this is my job, this is my team for the next 3 years.
Well, I'm just telling you, Gundy really likes and respects Taylor Cornelius.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest reason why we didn't see either of the other quarterbacks get on the field. Yeah. I really think Gundy said, you gave me 4 years, I'm going to give you 1 wire to wire. It's your squad. And
he was a great story, bowl game MVP. All right, I know we are up against it. Octavius, let me know how much time we have because we are going to talk. I've got it written on the back of medical bills. That's when you've got a newborn.
That's awesome.
That's what you do. Here's what I had when we were talking about what were the top stories in 2018 in the state of Oklahoma. I didn't know if this was cheating or not, but the Rose Bowl happened on January the 1st.
Absolutely.
So that would be your game of the year without a doubt, even though that was the 2017 football season. That Rose Bowl between OU and Georgia, they went to overtime. They were on the wrong end of that thing, but that was the best game of of 2018,
No
without
question.
a doubt.
No question.
And then at the end of the year, in the Orange Bowl, December the 29th, you had OU facing Alabama. That was 1 versus 4, Kyler versus Tua, Saban versus Riley. So the fact that, you know, 2 in the same calendar
Right.
year, 2 college football playoff bowl games, that's a big deal.
And in between, well, and in that January 1 game, OU was quarterbacked by Heisman winner Baker Mayfield. And then so Baker Mayfield, through that fascinating yet overcovered process leading to the draft, I got a little tired of all that, but I do every year. But it's the most overcovered event in sports, is the NFL draft.
Agreed.
No, it's not
Agreed on
even
that.
close. Well, it's just because
probably
there's
not close, yeah.
90 days of
Yeah.
coverage of that.
But yeah, Baker going #1 and then his rookie season, that's kind of a story for us.
No
too,
doubt.
even
And
though it's
then
happening in the night.
so Baker goes #1 overall. Mike Stoops fired after the Texas game.
Yes.
OU wins a 4th consecutive Big 12.
And Kyler Murray winning the Heisman.
And Kyler wins
For
the
me, I
Heisman.
put that, I mean, we'll get into what is #1, but I put that very close to the top. Making it back-to-back, the fact that it was this one single season and it exceeded all expectations. Yeah, I mean, huge, huge story.
Well, so, you know, circling back to the very opening of this rant, you said, you know, they squandered this amazing 2-year quarterback run, but you got 2 Heismans to fire out there in recruiting and
You're right.
I mean, they had a heck of a 2 years.
That's something for you.
No.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if we're ranking these, but in any sort of particular order, I'm with you that the OU's calendar year was amazing.
Yeah.
And then we probably are in
Being
agreement.
fired, as you mentioned, we just went over it quickly. I mean,
Well, that ended
that's a big deal.
That ended a 20-year coaching relationship with the Stoops brothers and the OU program.
Yeah.
So no, that's not a common everyday staff change. That was a
Happens
big
after
deal.
the OU Texas game.
Yeah.
You know, the night.
Oh no, you and I were
was
sitting here getting ready to rant.
Yeah,
and
that's
then-
right.
and
We
then-
broke that
holy
news
cow.
just about.
Yeah.
A couple other things I got, and then I'll let you just jump in. The Trae Young show, I mean, that kind of fizzled out
Yeah.
towards the end, but I mean, the guy leads the nation in scoring and assists.
Well, you would agree
was a
that
one and done.
there was probably a 3-week period, maybe in mid-January through early February, where he was the most talked about guy in the sport.
ESPN overdid it.
In
I
the
mean, you talk about the
okay.
NFL draft. ESPN
No,
went
he
nuts
did.
on Jay. They OD'd on Trae Young.
Most talked about guy in the sport.
Yeah, that's
Period,
right.
At any level.
Certainly not a big story nationally, but here in Oklahoma, the fact that Mike Boynton exceeded expectations
Yeah.
to the extent he did, you don't have anybody in the OSU family now who would take Underwood over Boynton at this
way.
point. I mean, he's kind of proven himself, even though this is going to be a tough year for those guys, as just a bright, rising star. You get into the high school stuff, and you reminded me, I kind of forgot because I associated this with 17, Alan Trimble retiring. I mean, that's in contention for the #1 sports story of the year
Yes.
for us here in Green
Well, I
Country.
think it was a given at the end of the 17
Right,
football
that it was
season
happening.
unfortunately,
That is a legend.
we had seen the last of Alan Trimble on the Jinx sideline.
Yeah.
But until that day in Jinx, when he announced his retirement, I mean, it was still sobering and still to some extent, even a little shocking, even though we knew it was coming. But because 22 years, 13 championships, oh my goodness, Caden, his record's 242 victories, 41 losses,
Just the
13
best.
titles, 8 home losses in 22 years.
the best to wear a whistle. in this state.
Unbelievable,
And that's
yeah.
saying something, you know, considering the guys he went. I mean, he went against the best and had to beat the best.
Oklahoma plays its home games at Owen Field, and now Jinx plays its home games at Trimble.
There you go.
Alan Trimble, is it Field or Stadium?
Alan
Anyway.
Trimble Stadium, I believe, is what it is.
Well, and it'll be that way forever.
And then you fast forward to late November or December, and for the first time in 108 years of football, Broken Arrow wins a state championship. That's got to be in contention for the #1 story for us here in Green
Well,
Country.
circling back to Trimble, this Broken Arrow team, in my mind, and really, I don't know that you can even argue it if you look at the numbers, but statistically, physically, however you want to measure it, most dominant team, most dominant 6A champion, and so by extension, really, you could probably say the most dominant physical state champion, period, in Oklahoma since '97 Jinx.
No, they were that good. They got a bunch of guys coming back too. I mean, they do lose a lot, but they got a bunch of guys coming back. Broken Arrow was fantastic.
BA's not going to. They're not going away.
Yeah, that's right.
They are now one of the big big contenders every year.
Because he went out of state, it wasn't as big as it could have been, but the recruitment of Dax Hill, the fact that he was a 5-star, highest rated Oklahoma kid, and maybe ever since the recruiting services came along, following his career, I had him down as well. Thunder one and done in the playoffs, and then, you know, if you're down in Oklahoma City, maybe Kyler and his season overcomes this, but man, down in the 405, you got to put Paul George re-signing with the Oklahoma City Thunder as number one, right? The house party and then the surprise signing. Doesn't even give the Lakers a meeting.
I was at and it came on the heels of a really frustrating, weird season with the Carmelo Anthony experiment, and it just didn't work. And they get bounced in the first round.
When the season ended, you would have given the Thunder what chance of re-signing Paul George?
Honestly, 20%. I mean, he was saying all the right things that led you to believe.
But I didn't believe any of it.
Well, but at least I'd say 20%. And then I was at the fights. I was at the ESPN fights in Oklahoma City on a Saturday night. And Carson Cunningham said to me, Carson, hello. He watches every week.
My man Carson.
So anyway, Carson, I think it was Carson or Mark Rogers, one of those guys said, you know, are you aware of the party? And I'm like, no. What
We're
party?
from Tulsa, man. We don't know what party you're talking about.
Well, anyway, that was the party.
Yeah,
that was the Paul George Westbrook house party to announce.
Kind of a big deal.
And then you hear the details of the deal, that it's, you know.
And how about the way he's playing now? This will bleed into 2019, but this guy for the last month really has played at an MVP level. They finally go beat Portland a couple days, and I'm a little bit worried that maybe they popped the champagne in that locker room after, because they were awful tonight against Washington.
Yeah, well,
mean, that was an abomination. But Paul George, big story, and the way he's playing,
Paul George,
best ball of his career,
best ball of his life. Paul George across the board, best season so far of his career. Same goes for Steven Adams. The Dennis Schroeder acquisition, I applauded at the time. I knew that would be impactful. And then the Nerlens Noel acquisition, which I thought was a throwaway, has been sensational. And then,
except for tonight,
you know, and Westbrook, here he is, in spite of his shooting woes, which are just inexplicable. The guy's still averaging a triple-double. And I don't know how do you explain tonight. I mean, and we're not here to talk about tonight, but that's unprofessional and inexcusable to lose to the Wizards at home. Yeah, well, that party was look at that.
We're smoking cigars. This is all happening in the state of Oklahoma, Bill. When did you start at the Tulsa World?
1990.
I mean, could you have imagined that talking about the world's best basketball players would be your beat? It's just, come on now.
No, I still marvel to some extent every time I go to a game at Chesapeake and look around like, oh, you know, we're in Oklahoma and here this is a 361st consecutive sellout. Whatever it is.
All right, so if I'm saying state of Oklahoma, biggest sports story, I got to go with this one. I got to go with Paul George re-signing.
Wow.
But if you're talking about just for us here in Green Country, and I mean, you're on radio here, you know what moves the needle here. The Thunder's a big deal, but it's not as big a deal as it is down the turnpike. I got to go Kyler Murray's season. If we're talking about our DMA, our people, what mattered to our folks, I think Kyler's Heisman season would be number one.
Well, I mean,
Trimble and B.A. close.
I'm not going to argue that because I mean, I've always said that the Heisman, I've always considered the Heisman to be the most prestigious individual award in American sports. And 2 Oklahoma guys got it back-to-back. 2 quarterbacks got it back-to-back. No, I'm with you.
How iconic is that shot when they have them take the trophy outside Times Square and take that picture? I mean, that's just, they've now got 7 of them. 4 in the last 15 years. They have become Heisman U. It is, what you mentioned is exactly right. This is going to do a lot for this program.
You remember for years and years and years, downtown Cleveland on the side of one of the bigger buildings, they had the giant LeBron image, whatever. They should do that with on the south end of the stadium with Baker and Kyler. Just
give Mike Houck a call.
Well, I mean, I'd do it. And you know what? You could do such clever things with lighting now. You could project that image onto the stadium without painting or wrapping or any of that stuff.
That's exactly right.
Or you could do that. You could do that downtown Oklahoma City with that tall, crazy anomaly of a building they've got down there, whatever that thing is.
Man, it's been a lot of fun, and as much as you'll come back, I want to bring you back to talk about some of the top stories as they unfold. You know, maybe reacting to the Grinch press conference, things like we'll be bringing Bill into Rant kind of all year long. But
cool. It
ends with the football season, so that does it for our Jack Kissy sponsored. We love these guys. 5th year on board with us, the Rant. Bill Hastings, it's been fun. Hope to have you again next year. And I guess that does it. They're telling me we got to go. That's it for our halftime of the Golden Globes. Rant. Take care,
all right,
everybody.